and welcome to Case Closed. I'm Charlie Langton, your host. We'll soon go inside an actual courtroom in the Warren District Court to see a real small claims case in action. Now, under Michigan law, small claims cases may be brought by individuals seeking $3,000 in damages or less. Neither side may be represented by an attorney in small claims court, and the judge's decision is final. Now, the first case of the day, the case of the used lemon car.
All right, this is your case, Mr. Stevens. What are you asking for?
Okay, I had purchased a vehicle, and then the engine head went out.
You purchased a vehicle from Paradise Auto Sales,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Okay.
And I purchased the vehicle on February 15th,
Okay.
and the vehicle set because I had to get plates, insurance, and all that stuff. And it's set, and I drove the car for a week or two, and the engine head went out.
How much did you pay for it?
I paid $3,407.
$3,407. Is that right?
Yes.
What kind of car?
It was a Buick LeSabre.
How many miles on it?
1997 Buick LeSabre.
How many miles on the vehicle?
130.
Who are you, sir?
I'm his dad.
What's your name?
Louis Stephen. I gave him the funds so he could purchase the vehicle. Actually, I went and looked at the car because he wanted me to look at the car from Paradise. It was a clean car, in and out, anyway, it was
133,000 miles on it.
Yeah,
That's
only
what it was.
133,000. Well,
All right, go ahead.
no, it was a little less than it was a little less than
One at a
133.
time. Okay, you can't both talk. One at a
No,
time.
he was just 133. It's a little less than 133. Actually, 130.
Well, I don't need to know exactly.
Okay, but it-
133,000, 132,000.
Exactly. Okay. So I.
Well, why don't you let your son go ahead and
Okay.
tell me the story. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I drove the car for a week and a half, and the engine head went out when I was on my way home.
Okay.
So I'm here today because I just wanted to get the engine fixed.
What's wrong with it?
I have a quote for the.
What actually, to make a long story short,
What you know what? I appreciate you being here and trying to help out your son, but you're not an attorney. You really can't represent him.
no, sir, he's just not translating the information you need to know
Well,
correctly.
I can get it out from him. I've done this for 14 years, and I pretty much know how to get the information out that I need to know to decide the case. Why don't you let your son handle it? Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I got a quote from the engine shop, and he stated it was running and making noise, and what it was I had a rub knock.
You had a what?
What's it say? It was a knocking noise in the engine. Basically.
Okay.
A rod was thrown.
Okay.
So, that's
Let me take a look at what you have. All right. You're giving me a, looks like an estimate here from John's Auto Repair Center Incorporated. It's dated March 16th. And it says that the customer came in and the state of the car was not running and making noise. The car was towed, checked, oil was full, and it had a lower engine noise after the car was started. And it was a rod knock, and this says it needs a new engine. It looks like $1,500 is what the estimate is to put in a new engine. Why are you suing for $2,000?
because, well, I had to pay somebody to get back and forth to work.
Okay?
I had to catch a cab and stuff in that nature.
For the record, it looks like the mileage was 132,186. Okay, well, I mean, what do you have to say then, Mr. Solomon?
Purchased
Well,
the car.
I'm sorry, before we get to that,
Yes, sir.
did you get the vehicle inspected at all before you bought it?
No,
Was there any warranty with it?
no,
Did you buy it as is?
yes.
Ooh, as is. Uh-oh, do I have to say more?
Mr. Solomon, go ahead.
Actually, I purchased the car from an individual. I didn't get it from an auction or anything. I did have the car inspected when I got the car. I inspect all my cars pretty much.
But
Make
how
sure the
long ago
brakes.
did you buy the car before you
I
sold it?
bought it in the beginning of January. I think it was January the 3rd, I believe it was.
So you sold it, what, a month later or so?
About 6 weeks later.
Okay.
When I had it inspected, actually, I had some work done to it. I spent over $500. I do have a receipt for that. The car was in good running condition. I advertised it. They came down. Didn't really want to pay the price, which is normal in the business. I understand that. I said, how about I throw you in a warranty? Because I can get those for $150 for 6 months, 6,000 miles, covers engine and trans. And understandable, half the people pretty much, no, cheapest possible deal. And I went along with that, no problem. He signed the buyer's guide. I mean, I had the car in good running condition. There wasn't any knocks in there. I don't know how long the car sat. He had it almost 5 weeks. I'm not saying that anybody would have abused the car, while he owned it. But like any insurance policy, that's what a warranty is. I offered it, it's for $200 difference. It cost me $150, a little bit in it for me. If you would have taken it, it would have been covered. As much as a nice young man that he is, we do what we do. If everybody could afford a brand new car, we wouldn't be here. And it was a nice car. I mean, it was a clean car, as you said, had good tires, brakes, ran good. I don't know what happened to it. I haven't seen the car since. He came into my shop on the 19th, which, like I say, was almost 5 weeks later. Told me he had $1,200 worth of damage. I reminded him of the fact of the warranty deal. He did sign it as is, where it's marked off that there's a chance to buy a service contract. And I really don't feel responsible. I don't have this problem come up very often, but it is a used car.
Sounds like you rolled the dice and lost.
Can I say something?
Go ahead.
Okay, when I went back up there and what he just said, he stated that he replaced the
Valve cover.
the valve cover,
Engine.
the engine, the oil. So basically, it was something going on with the engine before he sold me the car.
And a lot of used cars do have things that are wrong, and naturally, that's why I try to fix them. And I do have a receipt for over $500 worth of repairs. I try to make the car right. I wouldn't lie to you. I mean, we go out, there's some things that need to be fixed. We don't throw the car away, we fix it. I wouldn't have spent $500 fixing a car that had a knock in the motor. You guys drove it twice, Dad checked it, son drove it. It wasn't making any noise. Your dad came in on the 19th. He told me that, well, it's a good motor and it shouldn't have went out. And I says, well, no. He goes, we even had the oil changed on it and everything too. I says, well, maybe they didn't put the oil back on properly, the cap. Or I'm not sure what happened to the car. There was no reason for it, for that motor to go. They do have a good reputation. A 38 motor on a GM car does run a long time. What I fixed, he's right, it was a gasket, and they do have a lot of intake manifold gasket problems. We did take care of that, and again, I've got a receipt for it. I did what I thought I needed to do. I didn't do anything to harm the gentleman. He seemed like a nice young man. I know he's going to school. I did what I do.
Okay, sir.
After he got the plate on the car, we had an oil change done to the car. And actually the car only ran a few hundred miles. It didn't even run, because it's set for 2 weeks, it only ran a few hundred miles. And we had the oil change done. Soon after the oil change done, that's when
When you had an oil change, the gentleman, if there was a problem, would have told you at that point. So
Well, no.
driving it afterwards would show that with the oil change done, at that moment, everything was fine. I mean, things do happen, we can't look back.
Make it quick, okay?
Well, that was just, after you purchase the vehicle, any vehicle, it's just good to have an oil change done, just so you know where we're at.
I agree.
That's the reason for the oil change.
The defendant was sold a car as is. He was offered a warranty, didn't want it. All this was in writing. Even the dad looked at the car. I think this is an easy one, but let's see what the judge says.
I get cases like this every so often. And they're all resolved the same way. And the lecture, if you want to call it that, is always the same. When you buy a vehicle, a used vehicle in particular, you don't get any sort of protection with the vehicle in terms of its ability to run or how good it is or anything like that, normally, unless you buy a warranty, which you didn't do in this case. And the reason why is because cars, as they get old, have problems. They're mechanical devices. Things break. They don't work as well as they did before. You can buy a new car and it can have problems too, lots of times shortly after you buy it, but old cars in particular are like that because of the devices that they are. And so the law says that if you're going to buy a new car, you get it as is. In other words, whatever condition the car is, that's what you get. And that's why they don't cost very much, most of them, because people know that they are gambling a little bit. As I said earlier, you are rolling the dice a little bit when you get a used car because you're not sure what you're going to get. You may get a real good car that might have 100,000 miles or even more and run a long time without a whole lot of problems. You might get a car that has even less mileage and start to have problems almost immediately. Again, because cars are like that. That's the way they're put together. There's nothing we really can do to change that. So the bottom line is when you bought this car without a warranty, you bought it in an as-is condition. Whatever condition the car was, that's what you got. And apparently you bought a car that had some engine problems in it that you didn't know about right away, and now you're stuck with it. To be blunt, that's just too bad, okay? And that's what the law says. It's not that, in this case, Mr. Solomon did anything wrong. It's not necessarily the case that you did anything wrong. You bought a used car with 132,000 miles on it. You paid $2,000 for it, hoping that you'd get a serviceable vehicle. You didn't. There's nothing you can do about it now except get it fixed if that's what you want to do. I don't know if you do or not. It might not be worth it. That's going to be your decision. But as far as the law goes, there's no action that you have against the plaintiff here. There's no way that you can get any money because legally the law doesn't allow it. You bought it as is without a warranty. You're stuck with what you got. Case is dismissed.
Easy case. As is means as is. Doesn't get much simpler than that. All right, next case will be the case of the tenant who didn't move after this. Welcome back to Case Closed. Now the case of the tenant who didn't move.
All right, Mr. Salama, this is your case. Tell me what this is all about.
Yes, Donica Wolford, she used to be my tenant since February of 2009. She used to be a good tenant, but by the end of 2008, 2009, we have a problem and I need my house back. First of all, she used to live in the house. We have in the lease agreement, she has no right to have any pets, any dogs or something like that. After that, she called me, I'm going to have a cat. I said, okay, no problem, you can have a cat. After I give her permission to have a cat, she brought 4 dogs in the house. So anyway, I decided to not renew the lease. I told her in January, you're going to move because I need my house back. It has a big garage. I'm going to use it for personal use, and she don't pay rent for February, January, February, March, and April. Anyway, I bring her to the court here in March to make sure she's going to leave. And instead, she have to move by March 31st. Judge Matthew gave her until April 30 to move. And I said, okay, no problem. But he told her, you have to pay rent. She didn't pay rent for me for January, for February, March, and April, which is $2,175.
Do you have a lease with you?
No, I don't have it.
But you said she signed a lease.